Hey! June is Pride Month in many parts of the world, and like a lot of people, I am ready to celebrate. Woo! But beyond the parties and rainbow flags, what is the point of it all? This is KN Explains Pride. From New York to Toronto to Tel Aviv, people around the world celebrate LGBTQ plus identities every year during Pride events. But what exactly is Pride? Why did it start? And why is it still important today? To better understand the history of Pride, I spoke to several queer experts and activists. But before we go to them, let's start with the timeline of Pride history. The modern Pride movement is usually linked back to an event in 1969, often called the Stonewall riots, but also known as the Stonewall uprisings. The 6 days of demonstrations and clashes with police erupted after police raided a gay bar called the Stonewall Inn in New York City. Members of the LGBTQ plus community protested years of discrimination and demanded the right to live openly, without having to hide their sexual orientation.
It really, was a turning point in terms of how people thought about themselves and saying, like, why should we not be open?
Some people say that the decriminalization of homosexuality in Canada, which passed royal assent and became law only 1 day before Stonewall, helped to inspire the uprisings across the border in New York City. A year later, in 1970, the first gay pride marches took place in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco to mark the anniversary of the Stonewall raid. Those marches became what are now known as Pride Parades. Throughout the 70s and into the 80s, extreme police crackdowns on gay bars and LGBTQ plus meeting places sparked protests and calls for gay rights. Canada's first historic protest took place on August 28, 1971. Nearly 100 people presented a petition to the government with a list of 10 demands for equal rights and protections. 1973 marked the first grassroots pride events in several Canadian cities, including Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Saskatoon, and Winnipeg. 1978, San Francisco Pride debuted the now iconic rainbow flag. 1981, Vancouver hosted Canada's first ever city-permitted Pride Parade. 2005, same-sex marriage is legalized across Canada. Pride events reflected the moment by including public weddings. 2016, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau raised the Pride flag in front of Parliament Hill for the first time. While Pride has become more normalized, there are still people who oppose it. Some anti-LGBTQ plus groups have even held counter-protests. In addition, a counter-movement known as Straight Pride has emerged. In 2019, a straight pride parade was held in Boston.
Pride is not saying that you aren't worthy as a straight person. It's saying we need to be acknowledged for who we are, and we're going to do it ourselves because society hasn't done it for us.
Even people who are pro-Pride have their criticisms of the movement. For example, many in the LGBTQ plus community feel that mainstream Pride has become too corporate.
Hi, gay! Happy Pride Month! We are sashaying away with deals.
But don't let their rainbow washing fool you.
Corporate sponsors are a huge part of Pride today, with many companies and organizations providing money to hold huge events. Big marketing campaigns are rolled out in June to show their solidarity with the queer community. But LGBTQ plus organizers feel it's important to call out corporations who want to sell rainbow merch or market themselves as allies while not following through on their promises.
There's a place for them, but I think, we have to be mindful that they not sort of dominate the conversation. And that they also recognize that for us, our issues and our experiences should go beyond, the month of June.
Another controversial issue at Pride is the presence of police. Many in the LGBTQ plus community have called for uniformed police to be excluded from participating in Pride events. In recent years, police groups, and police bands have marched in uniform alongside other LGBTQ groups. In 2016, Black Lives Matter Toronto staged a sit-down protest during the Toronto Pride Parade to demand police be excluded from the event.
Of course, Stonewall happened because of the police raiding the Stonewall Inn, which they did regularly about LGBT bars back in those days to harass and arrest patrons who were cross-dressed. So it's like, it's really, we're going to involve the police as part of this, when this is what was the impetus, and we still have a great deal of police brutality against LGBT folk.
Then there are concerns about diversity and inclusivity. While the Pride movement has always included Black, Indigenous, people of color, trans folks, lesbians, and bisexuals, for a long time, Pride was dominated by white gay men. Over the years, many people have tried to change that by creating special events for people of all identities. From Black-led events like Blockorama to trans marches. Minorities within the LGBTQ movement continue to fight for recognition and inclusion, and for accessible Pride events. Another aspect of inclusion at Pride has to do with kids and families. Some people have complained that the parades aren't family friendly.
Usually, when a parent is uncomfortable for their child, they're really uncomfortable for themselves. And they're thinking it's uncomfortable for their child.
Queer culture doesn't need to be sanitized to be made kid-friendly.
Many large Pride Weeks do include family-oriented events, and many kids and families participate every June.
So I think that organizers are trying to be real sensitive and helpful, but at the same time, Pride is for the people in our community. And so to tell people in our community they can't celebrate themselves in the way they want to celebrate would be a disservice to them, because that's what Pride is really about.
So why does Pride still matter today? In LGBTQ circles, Pride events are seen as an important part of queer community building and activism. For a lot of people, Pride is a time to meet up with friends and celebrate their own identity.
There's just so much that we still have to do that people can live their lives free from discrimination and harassment, that we need to do more than party. And I think in some ways Pride has lost its way in that way, that they're not challenging the system. They've really become a part of the system.
In some parts of the world, it is still illegal to be gay or trans. And Pride demonstrations are broken up violently by police. Across the United States, laws have been proposed and put in place that threaten gay and trans rights. One of the most recent controversial laws is known as the Don't Say Gay Bill in Florida. It prevents elementary school teachers from discussing gender identity or sexual orientation with students younger than grade 4.
I think the work of Pride and the significance of Pride should be spread across the 365 days of the year.
It's about recognizing that all letters across that acronym, the LGBTQ2S+, that Pride is the thing that brings us together.
That's it for KN Explains. For CBC Kids News, I'm Ameko Carroll. To make this video explainer, our team used expert interviews and various sources of research. Thank you to Courtney McFarlane, Jenny Beeman, Rob Sanders, and Mel Woods for sharing their expertise and personal stories. Research sources include The Archives, Extra Magazine, Pride Toronto, Encyclopedia Britannica, National Geographic, the Library of Congress.